Think for a moment about SNES and Mega Drive, my favorite consoles of all time. What comes to mind is obvious. Mario and Sonic, Final Fight and Streets of Rage, Space Megaforce and Thunder Force 4, and so on and so on. But is that all? There's a lot of bad titles on both systems that get thankfully overshadowed. However, most of the time, the same treatment is reserved also to lesser known titles that are perfectly fine on their own. Some of them, in my opinion, are even better than other games considered to be masterpieces. So I'm presenting a list of 8 titles, 4 on the SNES and 4 on the Mega Drive, that should get more attention and praise than what they're receiving at the moment. I'm considering one game per genre on each system, so no 2 RPGs on the SNES, for example, but one on SNES and one on Mega Drive is okay. Also, since most of Japanese exclusive games aren't really known at all, I'm including only one NTSC-J exclusive on SNES and Mega Drive respectively. Finally, remember that this is a personal list of good lesser-known titles. I obviously don't expect everybody to agree with me, of course. So, let's get started with Skyblazer on the SNES. When I thought about making this video, Skyblazer was the very first game that came to mind. I remember playing it when I was a kid, and Snes9x was my everything. It is a traditional platformer, classic jump, punch, special attacks, etc. It has some kind of a Mega Man-like ability system, in which you get a new power-up as soon as you defeat a boss, and you can use it in the next levels. I really liked using some of these powerful attacks to manipulate some of the levels and to defeat bosses with ease. You select levels by going to different points on the map. New levels block you from proceeding further, but you can replay any level you want in the world you're currently visiting. Really nice graphics, a typical Indian music, and overall, a great experience. Now, when you think about racing games, you certainly don't think at side-scrolling as a viable option to make a great game. However, you'll be surprised about the fact that Uniracers, or Unirally, is a really good side-scrolling 2D racing game. If the fact that you play as sentient unicycles isn't enough to convince you, then the gameplay will for sure. Really fast racing experience, tight controls, good graphics and excellent soundtrack are what makes this game brilliant. During the race, you'll find yourself jumping a lot to make sick tricks in order to accelerate. The more tricks you do, the faster you get. You always race against an opponent, except for the tricks-only tracks, where you only have to get enough points to proceed. It has some platforming elements that you don't usually see in other racing games. It's a nice change of pace for once. Choplifter 3, my brother's favorite game. I really am not into it like him, but I cannot deny that this is a fine shooter. Well, actually, it's a mix of shooting and rescuing. You have a predetermined number of hostages to rescue in each stage. Once you get to that number, you proceed to the next one. There are 4 levels, each of them having 4 stages. During the 3rd stage and at the end of the 4th, you confront a boss. Sound-wise and graphically speaking, it won't blow you away or anything like that. It can be repetitive at times, but it is way far from being a bad game. In my opinion, it's a game you should play little by little. I think you'll enjoy it more if you play maybe 1 or 2 levels at a time. Anyways, this game shouldn't be as obscure as it actually is. Let me get straight to the point. Treasure of the Rudras is perfect. I still cannot believe that almost nobody knows this title. Games that never left Japan can be popular, like Bahamut Lagoon and Seiken Densetsu 3. So I don't get why this game is ignored by most people. This game has everything. Beautiful graphics, amazing soundtrack, typical turn-based battle system, magic, story, well, kind of. You create your own spells by combining letters and you'll get different effects. There are also prefixes and suffixes that strengthen the spell. For example, Ig is the base fire spell. You add Ka that makes it more powerful, and Na that targets everything. And with Ka Igna, you get a really strong multi-target fire spell. As for the story, every 4,000 years a deity comes to the planet to destroy everything and start all over with new races. The game takes place in the last 15 days of the year 19,999, and you follow 3 different stories that you can choose in any order you like. You can play through all of one story and then proceed to the others, or keep jumping between the 3. In the end, you get a 4th story that concludes everything. What you do in one story may affect what happens in another one, so there could be something that at first seems out of place, but then you understand once you play the other story. Definitely play this game. I won't say what I think is worse than this or you all get mad at me, but this is an outstanding experience. Coming to Mega Drive, my favorite puzzle game of all time, Pugsy. I had never heard about this game. Then one day I found it while I was looking for Mega Drive games to buy, and oh boy, I wished I had known about this game before. This game features a unique physics system that really makes the game stand out. You can pick objects, throw them, or use them to grab on ledges. Puzzles start out really easy, but they get quite hard in almost no time, and some of them are very creative. Some of them might be quite obvious, while others may require a lot of thinking, but once you get to the solution, you really feel satisfied. To make the game even better, there are a lot of branching paths that take you to secret levels, like Mario World, and most of them are Easter eggs of other famous games. Finally, the game is accompanied with some of the best graphics on the system, and a really atmospheric soundtrack. This could have easily made its own Mario and Sonic franchise, but sadly, it didn't happen. Mega Drive has a lot of really good shoot-em-ups, my favorite one of all time, across all systems actually, being Thunder Force 4. However, I grew up playing one particular shooter, Arrow Flash. This game is one of those that I keep very close to my heart. I remember when I was playing it when I was little. That first level will always be stuck with me forever. The rest of the game is still perfectly fine on its own. Just keep in mind that it will get quite hard, since losing a life means losing also every power-up you've collected so far. It isn't by any means the best shooter ever, or even one of the best, but sometimes other worse games get mentioned and known for how bad they are, and games like Arrow Flash get overshadowed because they aren't really good, nor really bad, and it's a pity. Almost like Pugsy, I never knew about Warlock if it wasn't for some retro games hunting on shopping sites. What we have here is one of my favorite platformers ever created. It's a tie-in of the movie, and sometimes this means bad news, but not in this case. Warlock isn't a typical Mario or Sonic style platformer. You have to be careful about everything you do, almost like a cinematic platformer. You kill an enemy, go some step forward, and stop thinking about how to deal with the next part. It may sound boring at first, but once you get to really know how to play it, it becomes really interesting. Controls may be difficult to learn at first, you have to press down and start to select a spell, for example. But that will maybe the easiest part about this game. Warlock is hard, really hard. You even start with no extra lives, but you can collect them during the game, and you need everyone you find. Also, the password system here is your best friend. You surely don't think about RPGs when you think about the Mega Drive. Yeah, there are the Phantasy Star games, but for sure Sega's best system isn't known for its story-driven games. But in Japan, they had King Colossus, again, another exclusive that should be more known than it actually is. If we might compare it to something on the SNES, it is like Terranigma, although not as good. Don't get me wrong, King Colossus is one of my favorite RPGs of all time. I play it at least once every 1 or 2 years. Gameplay-wise, it's a standard hack and slash with level ups, armor, equipment, you know it. And it is so much fun. It may not seem that much when you look at the graphics, but for sure, the soundtrack won't let you down. It might be difficult to learn how to use certain weapons or defeat some bosses, but it is an overall great experience. So, here's my list of lesser known titles that in my opinion should get more attention. I hope you liked the video, and if you want, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment and subscribe to my channel.